Let's take a look behind the scenes of John Wick 4. Keanu Reeves didn't train for 3 months for nothing. The guy is given NASCAR racing a run for their money with his 180 drifts and high-speed chases. Of course, not without a handful of on-set injuries and accidents, though. Let's get into it. This was a major aspect of his training that definitely deserves its own highlight.
I got to do some more driving, and not just any ordinary driving.
Yeah, I'm talking about some extraordinary driving. Driving that you would never want to do with mom in the car. They took the car stunts to a whole nother level.
They're more complex now than they used to be.
And luckily for Keanu, he really enjoyed it.
It was really fun to be in the car again.
He had to do some high-speed 180s and 270s, but the hardest scene he had to master was when he did a reverse 180 and drift while reloading his prop gun and shooting out the freaking door. Major props to Keanu and his stunt team on that one. You should know that after 4 movies, Keanu Reeves is no one to be messed with. The guy must be made of, like, steel or something.
There's car foo, gun foo, and now sword foo. There's lots of fooling around.
He's known for doing as many stunts as possible, so obviously he had to go through some brutal training in order to get there. Like, the guy trained for 12 weeks to achieve what they called the toolbox. Basically, a toolbox of skills that he could utilize for the films. He literally learned how to stunt drive like the pros, the art of judo, jujitsu, and how to professionally wield nunchucks. He describes this film as the most difficult physical role he's had in his entire career. And like, the fact that it took 4 of these movies for him to say that is really something else.
Gun training, martial arts training, driving training.
He's always first man there, last man to leave.
Our guy was training 5 days a week for 8 hours a day, and it truly seems like he was having a great time doing it.
When it's time to hit the gym or hit a specific skill set, he's always there. He's always been incredibly involved.
Of course, it also helps that he's been trained by some of the best stunt coordinators and performers in the biz.
I've never worked with an actor who's willing to work that hard, train that hard. The guy's an animal.
Like, I didn't think it was possible to be more impressed with Keanu Reeves, but here we are. There's a super intense scene where he's just blasting through guys left and right and the camera is hovering just above him. Yeah, that was just multiple really long takes. There weren't a ton of cuts happening in that moment.
It was pretty high pressure.
But luckily, the cameras were automated, so it was a lot less work for the crew. But it didn't take any weight from Keanu's shoulders. He couldn't see the cameras, but they did have certain movements programmed into them, so he had to make sure he was in sync with every one of them. If there was just one little mistake, he had to reset from the beginning. And I don't know exactly how many takes it took him, but knowing Keanu, I would probably be incredibly impressed with that number. Naturally though, mistakes were made. Some of them hospital-inducing. You know there had to be at least a few injuries on the set of this movie. I'm actually more surprised at how few there were.
I made a mistake once and I cut a gentleman's head open.
Ouch. Okay, brutal. That's gotta be the worst of it, right?
Well, one guy got hit by a car, was in the car, he had to go to the hospital.
Fortunately, there weren't any other major accidents. None that were accounted for in the media anyway, but yeah.
So that really sucked. Excuse my language.
Donnie Yen put a lot of thought into the fighting style of Caine. It wasn't even really about the martial arts for him. It was more about his personality. In any of his films, he never really focuses on the style of martial arts when it comes to developing how his character fights.
This guy, he's family man, introvert, calm, walk slow, talk slow.
So that's probably not something we, as the audience, would pick up on, right? But you can see those personality traits show up in like every fight scene.
Therefore, his movements is very reserved. He only reacts to an outside force.
Obviously, I'm talking about Keanu Reeves and Lawrence Fishburne here.
As you no doubt have guessed, I am Morpheus.
Like, these two are thick as thieves. They've been friends ever since their Matrix days, over a decade ago, so it's no surprise that the set of John Wick is a lot more fun and lighthearted than you'd think. Lawrence's favorite thing about Keanu is actually his sense of humor, so in between getting punched in the face, Keanu is cracking jokes and making the whole set laugh.
He makes you laugh a lot.
Does he?
Yeah, he's got a great sense of humor.
You also might have unknowingly seen them on one of their bro bonding trips.
We've taken some nice motorcycle rides.
Not gonna lie, Ever since I heard Lawrence Fishburne describe the stunts filmed in Paris as breathtaking and
Completely off the chain.
it's been everything I've been wanting to see on screen. One thing I know for sure is that Keanu has many scenes where he's moving through, or rather fighting through, hundreds of extras. This was one of the most tedious and difficult scenes to capture, mostly due to the fact that they didn't want anybody getting hurt. The setup for these moments took longer than you could ever imagine, too. So yeah, let's talk about that for a sec.
You know, you gotta go on the playground a little bit.
How long do you think it takes to set up a John Wick fight scene? If you guessed days, weeks, or even months, you'd be right. Lawrence Fishburne says that's one thing he always forgets until he steps onto set. He says everything happens between the words action and cut seem like magic, but it's not. It's all prep. Again, days, weeks, and months worth of it.
That's always fun when you can still continually to expand your own ideas.
I know I talked a little bit about the fight scenes and the Carfu, but I need to shout out the stunt coordinator, Scott Rogers, who actually worked with Keanu Reeves to give us the ultimate car chase scene. Keanu is so dedicated to performing his own stunts that he started training 9 months in advance to hone his driving skills. Like, can you actually believe it? All that work definitely paid off, because Scott Rogers tailored that scene specifically to Keanu's driving caliber, not the other way around.
He actually started getting too good in the car.
So as I've already discussed a lot, Keanu Reeves has a major set of skills. Although yes, a huge part of that was because of all the long, hard hours of training he did. But what makes John Wick so great is that the stunt choreographers work with his natural strengths. They already know how he moves, so it eliminates hours and hours of training him to move in a different way.
We kind of watch and then see what he does best, and then we just figure out, okay, that movement looks best for him here.
Even if they don't need that particular movement, if he looks good doing it, they'll incorporate it somewhere else.
We're trying to get it right. We're trying to catch the magic.
Yeah, let's talk about the elephant in the room. COVID, unfortunately, delayed this movie an entire year. Not only that, but they also didn't want John Wick to be competing against Top Gun Maverick in 2022 at the box office. So they went ahead and pushed it back another year. It was announced in a teaser trailer that, yeah, was a little disappointing to see, but charming enough to be forgiven.
That's cool. That's kind.
So who else was super bummed about the delays?
I have no clue, but I wish everybody luck.
Well, through all these delays, I'm still so excited to watch Keanu Reeves in the Carfu genre.
Threw that car around pretty good.
To see how many extras he punches in the face, and of course, to watch him share the screen with his longtime bestie, Lawrence Fishburne.
They're just such a pleasure to watch.
But what are you most excited to see in John Wick 4?